Hi, hello, and welcome back to the hallowed halls of Strixhaven. I went and I got another booster pack. I know. I said I was dying. I was like feeling like I was done, but after the I'm interested to see if we get another page because there've been so many pages. You know what I mean? So we're gonna do it. I should. It's fine. I was gonna say, well, since I had the thought today, I will actually look it up because, like I said, I don't really play Magic, so MTG. Today I want to know instant versus sorcery. Because I'm curious. Let's go to Reddit. I feel like the real MTG players are on Reddit. You can only cast sorceries during your main phase when the stack is empty. Instants can be played during other phases and other players' turns. And they're the only spells that can unless they have flash. Explain to the crowd what okay. So to be a bit more specific, instants can only be, or they can be cast anytime you have priority. Priority is the right to play a spell or ability or take a special action. Players cannot play spells or abilities or take special actions at a time when they do not have priority. The player with priority may put as many spells or abilities on the stack as he or she wishes to, but before anything can resolve, all players must pass priority without adding anything further to the stack. Oh, so whenever you play a card besides a land card, it doesn't happen immediately. Instead, it goes to a place called the stack. Then, after it's there, it resolves and the card effect happens. And if you play a card in response to another card played, you add it to the stack, and the stack is resolved in reverse order. For example, suppose you have a 2/2 creature, 2 power, 2 toughness. Card in play, you cast Giant Growth on it, gives the creature +3/+3. Your opponent responds to it by casting Shock, which deals 2 damage to the creature. Because the stack resolves in reverse order, Shock will happen first. So you would deal 2 damage and kill the creature. The Giant Growth will not be able to save the creature because it's already dead. But let's suppose instead that the creature casts shock on the opponent casts shock on your creature first, and then you cast Giant Growth in response. Your 2/2 creature will become a 5/5, and then the 2/2 damage from shock would happen, but it wouldn't be enough to kill it. Wow. Okay. So there's a virtual stack. I feel like I don't know. I'm them type folk. Like I feel like there's something in that. Something about priority, something about the stack, something about things being resolved in reverse order. Honestly, low key, that energy of things being resolved in a reverse order has kind of sort of been present. It's been communicated differently, but it's kind of that energy of like not necessarily moving in silence, but kind of, I guess. Where it's like you don't want to broadcast your moves because then someone could like react or whatever. Like you want to save them. So if something happens, then because the stack is resolved in reverse order, you would have that after. Cool. All right. I don't know. Anyway, priority. Interesting. And in this deck specifically, priority and preparation. Maybe it's understanding priority, the stack, the sequence of things. I was talking to Eve recently, and she was mentioning how, like, you want to eat your foods in a certain order. Oh, gosh. I wish these were easier to just not demolish. But I guess these little booster packs be doing a lot of movement. But she was saying, like, you want to eat your foods in a certain order because of how the body sort of interacts with them. And it had to be her. It had to be something that she said. I think there's also something about like medicines that you take in combination, maybe. Excuse me, because my grandma was talking about folic acid. And I was like, isn't that like B12 or something? It's not B12, but it is one of the B vitamins or like an analog of, I think, B9. And it mentioned taking it in combination with something because it's like of the receptors or whatever that are open. Anyway, let's just get into the booster pack. Maybe it's a part of the energy. Maybe it isn't. I think Chino's going for a walk. He's going to be one happy puppy. Cool. All right. All right. All right. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to be like neat today and not demolish everything. I guess we're pulling from the bottom of the deck instead of. Oh no, we got more pests. More pests. I saw the goblin glass right, which we actually saw last time. So the goblin glass right is a goblin sorcerer 2/2 creature from our example. There's the 2/2 creature. And it enters prepared. So while it's prepared, you may cast a copy of its spell. Doing so unprepares it. Maybe it being prepared means it has priority. So you can cast the spell whenever because it's a sorcery. And usually you can only cast a sorcery in your main phase. And it has craft with pride. Create a treasure token. It's an artifact that you can tap to sacrifice to add 1 mana of any color. It can give you a mana of any color. And I remember that the pride in this today, there's something about this. So the goblin glass, right? It's like it's the vessel that it's creating. Right? And that's the thing. What's the thing about glass? That as you heat it up, it expands. We can actually go deeper because glass is made of, like, you can make glass out of sand, right? It's like the silica, whatever, girl. I know a little bit about a few things. So if you heat up sand, it makes glass. That's why, if something go down on the beach, it'll be glassy and sandy. And the sand is giving me the desert. The desert was an emergence point from that liminal space. So it's like using the sands of the desert to make some kind of vessel. Which in a way is interesting because people's like made out of dirt, right? But maybe not necessarily like earth dirt. Anyway. There's something about this, and it's not giving me full FMA, Full Metal Alchemist, with the homunculi, but this craft with pride. Craft with pride. And it's a goblin sorcerer. Sorcerers have innate magic instead of learned magic, studied magic, or instead of using like a system, like a wizard, right, would. There's something innate within them. Either it's a pact or a bloodline thing or whatever. I mean, it's the first card, so I ain't necessarily got to fixate here. But it is giving me, um, it's like the sand that's used is special. Whatever this flame is special. It's giving me like in video games, and I guess even in real life. Um, it's like you can use special materials to get a superior quality product, or you can use a technique that gives a superior quality product, or it could be the artisan themselves that creates the superior quality product. So it's like this, it's the materials, it's the technique, it's the artisan, and it's like all of these things that keep pushing the bar, but it's like it breaks, like if the bar is 0 to 10, it's reading vertical because it's easier to imagine vertical, but it can also be horizontal. It doesn't matter. It's like thing after thing after thing, like they're compounding to get something that exceeds the scale. Cool. Next is the Shopkeeper's Bane. Ooh, what that is? Is that a badger? It is another pest. I was hoping we wouldn't get more pests, but it's fine. So this has trample. I'm pretty sure. So when you attack a creature, the creature essentially soaks up the excess damage, so it doesn't affect the controller of that creature. But if a creature has trample, then they take the excess damage to their like life points, right? So if you have a creature with 5 power and it goes against a creature with like 2 toughness, usually that extra 3 points just kind of sort of vanish. But if a creature has trample, that extra 3 points penetrates through that standard nebulous defense, and that 3 points is dealt to the player. Whenever this creature attacks, you gain 2 life. So you gain 2 life when it attacks as well. Pests really live up to their name. Anaya, the disgruntled Ribtress town merchant. Oh, yeah, because it's the shopkeeper's bane. This is some like mutated, freaky badger looking thing. Will it even focus? It's a creature. There you go. This is giving me like we're only 2 cards deep. This is like an anomaly. This is there's a movie that comes to mind. I don't know what it's called, but I feel like I've watched the review of the movie. It's the energy of like an anomaly that doesn't know any better. It's like mischievous type energy because it's like it's outcast and othered. And because it's othered, it isn't raised or loved. It's not housed. So it's like it doesn't. Girl. If I could have some brain for these, that would be amazing. You get what I mean? Like it's not. It doesn't live anywhere. It's not lived. I mean, people aren't lived in. Places are lived in. Things can be lived in, but in a way that like they just like know how to whatever. And there's something again because it has trample. There is a nebulous remove or distance or ways that the world compensates for something that this shopkeeper's bane ignores. And it's a badger, so we don't give an F, right? Like the honey badger. It's not that tough, but it is powerful. And I'm thinking about, again, that vessel that is made out of a certain sand and the fires of like a certain sand in a certain fire with a certain technique by a certain artisan, and it's exemplary, and it's because it's exemplary that it bypasses those. It's not even a defense, it's just kind of like how things work. So it's an energy that like kind of pokes holes and stuff that shouldn't be there. But again, it reads like it does it because it no one has ever shown it what to do, or like no one's ever taken the time to sit with it to teach it like etiquette for it to basically like learn its own strength and learn boundaries and stuff like that. It doesn't learn restraint because it's not embraced. Where are we going with this? Next is Pull from the Grave, which is a sorcery. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. You gain 2 life. So not only do you get to bring 2 target creatures back from the grave, but you also gain 2 life. This is another card that gives you 2 life. Everyone's getting 2 life today. A little bruised, a little broken, but at least no longer dead. A quote from Dina, whoever Dina is. Dina Sore. Dinosaur. That's fine. Sorry. A little bruised, a little broken, but at least no longer dead. See, even in this, I feel like it goes back to that shopkeeper's bane, that badger pest, where it's like even the laws of death don't apply to it because, again, it. Yeah, this is done charging because it's so exceptional. Next, we have Rehearsed Debater, which is a Jinn Bard. Okay. It has vigilance and repartee. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, this creature gets +1/+1 until end turn, and it has 3/3. 3 power, 3 toughness. Of course, I talk to myself. Who wouldn't want to hear me speak? So I kind of love um, just like kind of that, right? And it's a light creature. It's basic. I read basic as light, especially here. What is vigilance? I know menace means that two creatures have to defend, not just one. Trample is the extra damage, I'm pretty sure. Flying and reach are flying and reach. Allows a creature to attack without becoming tapped. What? Okay. So because it doesn't tap to attack, the creature can also defend on the opponent's turn. Oh, like this is another. This so the rehearsed debater that is this Jin Bard, it feels like it reads as the mind of this badger pest. Right. And so it's like, again, because it's this energy of like it's never been embraced or loved or like welcomed into a home, for it to learn etiquette and boundaries as we like naturally do. It's not even necessarily something that you have to teach. It's just like being in an environment with people who are all like, loving each other and working together, sharing space, whatever. There are ways that you just sort of naturally learn to make space and leave room for others. And so this Gen Bard rehearsed debater, it's like all of the things, like it's the mindset of this. So it's kind of, we ain't necessarily got to do too much. Um, but it's kind of like one of those, it's the ways that it justifies what it does. Partially because it doesn't know any better, because no one's ever told it anything any differently. Also, partially because of the type of experience that it has in the world that it lives in. So it almost becomes like this is the role that I play. This is what I do, right? If like someone is snatching bread from the cart stand because they're hungry, their justification is they have to survive, and to survive they got to eat, and if no one is going to hire that person, pay them or give them food, like they're going to get the food how they can. And since it's a matter of survival, there's only like so bad they can feel about it, because otherwise they're going to die, right? And so it's not necessarily extreme, it's just that like there is no other way that it knows, because its situation and circumstances are what the situation and circumstances are, and from it's almost like from there you kind of sort of like branch out to other things as well. Next we have the elemental mascot, which is a bird creature. We had the spectacular skywell before, which was a fire water elemental creature. It has flying and vigilance, 1 power, 4 toughness. Opus. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast the spell, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of your next turn. So the last Opus we saw gave, I feel like it was a green creature. Instead, like it had like you get a +3/+0 for that turn if an instant or sorcery is cast. But if you use 5 or more mana, then it got 3+1/+1 tokens. This one allows you to exile your top card, the top card of your library, and then you can play it until the end of the next turn. It soars in the presence of true beauty. And it's interesting that it's not like usually when we see fiery birds, it's more of a phoenix energy. This isn't giving phoenix energy. I mean, it's kind of low key giving the bat, out of Avernus. Um, it's interesting though because when I walked today, and when I saw my walk, there's the one bird that's not, the blue jay does the eep. That's supposed to sound like a hawk or whatever. But it was like usually it does the this. It makes the screeching cry noise like 2 or 3 times and then it's done. But like it kept doing it. And it was like moving around and just making this noise and it almost was giving like an alarm. Right? And I'm like, what is that bird doing? And it went like it did it for a hot minute. And I'm just like, okay. Usually it gives 2 or 3 of them. Maybe it'll pause and then give a few more, and then it's like going wherever it's going or doing whatever it's doing. But it just kept doing it. This is interesting. So, in the spirit of that, it's looking for something. The something that it's looking for is this badger pest. Because again, the badger pest, it's a pest to the people, but it's extraordinary. Like it has trample. Usually, that extra damage is soaked up, right? Usually, the fabric of something is left intact. But um, this can pierce through. That badger pest is the true beauty that this elemental mascot soars in the presence of. And, instead of it's not giving that, hey David, how you doing? It's not giving like Phoenix energy. I mean, for you maybe it is. To me though, it's not reading like Phoenix. It's reading like the bat, right? That person went flying through like a bat out of hell. Like that's the bat girl. It's on fire. It's a bat on fire. And so, and it's almost like for the townsfolk, for the shopkeeper that see that badger as a pest, the fact that this looks like what it looks like for them, it's almost like it affirms that like it's this pest, it's this imp, it's this, little thing running around to cause terror. But it isn't, obviously. Right? But I feel like it is an energy of one of those things like at the end of the arc for this energy, when it's discovered, like how exceptional it is, then it feels like it's gonna like sort of surprise people. And it's almost going to be one of those like, oh, well, if we had known that it was so like special or exemplary or unique, like we would have treated it better. We would have like freely given the food so that it wouldn't starve or die instead of like treating it like, the street rat, whatever that we treated it as. And it's interesting because now it's making me think of that like unseen creation, whatever, that kind of came forward yesterday. It's giving me the energy of something that's like divine and actually divine, but it's an irritant to the modern world and the modern conception of what is divine or good or light or spiritual or whatever. It could be like because of the discomfort that it creates in people. It could be like because of the shadows that it inspires from people, because through proximity to light, the shadows are going to be more distinct and elongated. And instead of seeing the light as light, it's like they see the light as this evil that brings out the worst in everyone around it. But it's not bringing out the worst in people because it's this like seed of darkness and chaos and whatever. It's bringing out the worst in people because it shows them where they fall short. And instead of them owning that within themselves, they lash out at this badger pest type energy. And again, the badger pest itself doesn't know that because in its energy of like survival, it has to do what it has to do to survive like physically, right? So if it has to snatch food because it's hungry, but also it's like to mentally and emotionally survive, it builds up walls and it creates like rational reasoning logic to justify or to like piece together what it has to do, the world it lives in, and like to make sense of it all emotionally. Again, there is like the raw vulnerability of like not being embraced, but also it's like it has to make itself strong so that it doesn't crumble, because if it crumbles, there's no support for it to lean on. And yeah, ooh, I see shiny. And again, like this bird that is the water and fire, like the water and fire that we saw in the magician yesterday, specifically the magician in the tarot apocalypsis, and in the tarot apocalypsis specifically the magician came out. Also, we saw that six of swords with that like spirit entity thing holding that ace of swords. Anyway, that water and fire, it reads again, it appears as fire. It's not a phoenix energy, but this is heavenly fire that manifests as fire on earth, right? And usually because earth is earth, and if scorched earth, nothing grows. Right, nothing grows in scorched soil. So you gotta dilute it, you gotta like tone it down, or unless it'll just like blast away everything through sheer radiance of that being in its truth. But because flames are also associated with Avernus, I'm saying Avernus instead of hell, I don't know why. um because flames are associated with hell, then there's this like, oh, it must be unholy or whatever. But light will also, a strong enough light, a radiant enough light will also ignite things. It will also catch things on fire. Because of that, you know, plants have chlorophyll and other compounds that convert that energy that they get from light. So instead of combusting and igniting, they convert it into sugars, foods, right? That they use to like live. And then they take up water through the roots. They got water and food, they can grow. Fire and light is something that's been coming out a lot. Next, we have render speechless. Like I see, when the truth comes out and it's like, oh, this energy was actually like extremely divine and blah, 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 then everyone, some people, they're like, because it's the title of the card is Shopkeeper's Bane. And that's when the shopkeeper's like, oh, yeah, I fed them. I'm the reason why they stayed alive. They ate my food. Yeah, the food that you nearly killed them for taking that. And it's like, especially if it was already in the garbage, it's not like they were still in the fresh stuff that you were actually selling. They're still, taking the stuff that's already been discarded. That was just gonna, nobody bought it. It's more than a day old. It's not gonna sell when you're still bringing in fresh produce every day. It's that kind of like trying to like, oh yeah, like we did this and we did that, and it's like if you were to rewind it and look at the tapes, girl, none of y'all were actually nice or loving or embrace this kind of energy, because if you did, it wouldn't be what it is, right? So anyway, render speechless. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Then you put 2+1/+1 counters on top of one target creature. The flavor text sometimes, no, sorry, seems like I took the words right out of your mouth, is what it says. Seems like I took the words right out of your mouth. This is yeah. That's the like, oh my gosh. But yeah, we already, that's the goop, the gag, the oop, the oh, the that person was actually like royalty or whatever. See, but I feel like for people will have this like, oh, if I had realized who you were, I wouldn't have treated you like that. And it's like within a person's mind, sometimes that disconnect, it's like it's automatically resolved. Because technically, it's like you shouldn't treat anybody like that. It doesn't matter if they're secretly royalty or the owner or the boss or a famous person or whatever. Like their station is like, people should have a certain decency and respect that's shown to them regardless of who they are. And right, and so it's almost like when the truth comes out about who that badger pest creature is, again in the mind of the people, it's like, oh, like, we didn't know, like we would have treated you better. It's not, it's like it doesn't, that whole like you shouldn't treat anybody like this doesn't necessarily sink in. And that undercover boss, or when the secret, not the secret shopper, but when the manager shows up or corporate shows up and they pretend like they're just a customer, and it's like, the when corporate is there, they're there to see how you treat the everyday customer generally, right? Not specifically, not okay, within today's example, metaphor, story, as it's being interpreted today in real life, who knows? It's like when corporate shows up undercover, they're there to see how you treat the average ordinary customer. Excuse me, and they're there to have an average ordinary experience. If they wanted special treatment, then they would have come in and be like, yeah, I'm the manager, blah blah blah, I'm coming, make sure you roll out the red carpet for me. But that's not the point and purpose of that visit. But again, it's like for the workers, it's like, oh, that person was corporate, so we should have like we should have done the stuff that we're supposed to do. Again, it doesn't click that like we're supposed to treat all the customers whatever kind of way. And so that actually gives this a very interesting tonality, because the badger pest doesn't know anything. It feels like the badger pest is just like there, and it doesn't understand why it's having the experience that it's having. But it's like I go back to the goblin glass right, and this was the energy of the goblin glass right, but of course it didn't make sense when it was only one card, because that it was so much about the glass, like the vessel that the goblin glass right is creating. And I'm like fixating on this vessel, on this thing that's being made. The thing that was being made is the badger. That is extraordinary, exemplary, whatever. It's dropped on Earth or in a town to see what the people are actually like, right? Because it's almost like it's easy for us to get to the end of our lives, or it's easy for us to have an experience and then go like, oh, I was going through this and I was going through that, and like, living life is hard and blah 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 blah. It's like it's easy to make a lot of excuses at the end. And so the badger pest was dropped in the middle of everything, having the same experience, living the same life as everybody else, and being treated the way that it was treated. So that when this elemental mascot comes to check in or reveal the truth of this badger creature, then it's like you see the truth of it. You know what I mean? The most vulnerable of you, the most in need, was the most rejected and whatever and all this other stuff. It's like the vulnerability was supposed to inspire some kind of compassion and kindness. It's like, if you want to do a decency test for all the, pet animal people who, I mean, let's not do too much. It's like, I put like a helpless newborn puppy in this arena because, you say, oh, life is so hard, blah, 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 whatever. That's why we're not kind, whatever. It's like, well, puppies are, helpless animals are known to inspire kindness and generosity from people. So, to have a true test, not even a true test, to get some kind of decency out of humanity. Let's put, the thing that they're most likely to like help out there. And it's like nobody helps the puppy. Instead, they like kick it because it's like, taking scraps because it's hungry. And it's like the very thing that's supposed to inspire the most kindness, generosity, and the best of humanity out of humanity got disdain and abuse and neglect. And it's like, if you can't love the thing that's easy to love, then if you can't be decent in the arena where it's set up to be the easiest for you to like be decent, at the end of the day, sometimes we have to acknowledge that it's all excuses, or that we're not who we think we are. Because when given the opportunity and when given the chance, we don't show up. Now, there's obviously a flip side to this energy for the people that did recognize, right? And then the badger pest is revealed, and they're like, oh my gosh. And badger pest is like, yeah, they did me right. Everybody else did me dirty, but they did me right. They took care of me. They gave me a home. They did this. They did that. And so when they're rendered speechless, because it's like, well, I didn't do this to get anything back. Like, I was just being nice. I was just being generous. I was being kind. I was being the person I was raised to be. I was being a shining beacon of my faith, religion, belief, whatever, by living it and not just talking about it. I'm just like, whoa. And then like, yeah, undercover boss, you get $1 billion because you're awesome. And you're like, oh my gosh, man. I'm like this with everybody. And like, yeah, that's why you. Anyway. Next we have Carol. the history buff, I think this is our first legendary creature. Is this our first legendary creature from the Strixhaven pack? I don't recall any named creatures. I think Page Looseleaf may have been a legendary. Anyway, whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, Kiro becomes prepared. While it's prepared, you may cast a copy of its spell. Doing so unprepares it. It's a sorcery titled Pack a Punch. So you can mill a card and then put 2+1/+1 counters on a target creature. It gains trample until end of turn. And this oxymoron of what Kiro the history buff is, it's a vampire cleric, right? Vampires being undead, clerics being connected. Well, okay. To be fair, at least in the D&D world, clerics are just like associated with deities. Not every deity is good. There are like malefic deities in the D&D verse. So you can have a cleric that's aligned to a malefic deity that's like evil. It's not just like holy, the connotation with cleric, because gods are great, amazing, wonderful, benevolent, omnipotent forces. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, evil cleric deity. An evil cleric in Dungeons and Dragons channels dark divine energy to manipulate, curse, or destroy. Rather than just being a mindless murderer, they often act as twisted cult leaders, self-serving zealots of prosperity gospel, or manipulative politicians. Oof, 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 and oof. Google AI overview said it, not me. But if the shoe fit, then by all means. And maybe that's another part of it too, where it's like how quickly we fall under sometimes, by and large, in general, maybe of the past, no longer the present. Maybe we're moving out of this energy and this is a remnant from days and times gone by. But how quickly we recognize the divinity and align to evil when, like, that true, when the light, benevolent, actually kind and loving divine energy is present and we don't even recognize it. And beyond that, sometimes we kind of like treat it like whatever. But it's like, if a situation is toxic, and if everything goes to maintaining that toxicity and increasing the toxicity, then any medicine, any benevolence, any kindness, any generosity, anything that is good will be toxic to that toxic environment and situation, because it will decrease the toxicity. It will change the status quo in a positive way. And so, yeah, a vampire cleric could be that. I think, though, as it came out, it's more reading like it's this like actual sort of divine energy. And it's interesting, maybe, because I did just look for that light in the darkness, right? That's when I use the Angel Tarot, the Occult Tarot, and the Diablo Tarot. It does have Pack a Punch. Oh, yeah. The sorcery, a creature becomes more powerful and it gains trample. So again, that ability to like pierce the veil or to punch through this, maybe the illusion, I don't know, it can bestow that. So yeah, there's our connection, because the Shopkeeper's Bane also had trample, and it's that ability to pierce the illusion. But I guess if the framework is, when we uphold and subscribe to what is truly toxic, then anything that is medicinal, beneficial, benevolent, kind, generous, of the light will reduce the shadow, diminish the darkness, bring levity to a situation. Um, and so with this, like, piercing the illusion, again, with that energy of like, it's not something that makes everything worse because it brings out the worst in people. It's something that makes everything worse because it reminds people of who they could be, how they could be, and they struggle to accept that and to face it. And instead of being accountable and instead of being inspired to make changes to, make things better, they choose projection and rejection and all kinds of other stuff. The ugly is in them, it's not in that light. And it's not to say that, there aren't people that bring out the worst in others, but at the same time, sometimes the call comes from inside the house. Next is Proctor's Gaze, which is an instant. Return up to one target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. Only proctors are allowed to use magic in exam halls, enabling them to more easily catch cheaters in the act. Ooh, girl, not the cheaters. Did one of the cheaters get caught? No, that's another proctor. Never mind. Because I'm like, I think there are two proctors. Because I saw this, and then I saw this like encircling this person, and I was like, oh, did they get caught? But then I looked closer, and I was like, no, that's another proctor. It's interesting that part about only proctors are allowed to use magic in exam halls. People do refer to Earth as Earth School, so you can, by extension, infer that a human life or the human experience is an exam, not being able to use magic, right, during the exam. Sure. Um, but then we have that. I feel like this is almost insight into that trample, how trample can do what ordinarily isn't done. That pierce the veil, pierce the illusion. And this would almost suggest that it's not magic, or at the very least, it's not a magic that can't be used on the exam or in the exam hall. It's not restricted. It's just something that someone would like never do because it's not necessarily done, except by these energies that we view of as pests. Right. This is so black sheep coded, so Earth Angel 144 coded. And you know what? Like, I wonder how many people that throw around the word like NPC are like gamers. Because if you play a video game, especially a single player game, every single person that you encounter is an NPC. NPCs don't only have one role and they don't only show up in one way. You get NPCs in every faction, you get NPCs in every level. And just because we believe something or whatever doesn't mean we're not NPCs. Because if Earth is a game and life is the Matrix or whatever, even the divine faction, even the churches and the like there would be NPCs in there too. You know what I mean? Like there would literally be NPCs everywhere. Everyone that's not a player. So just because we follow a certain line of, especially if we slip into dogma, especially if we slip into what other people say and think and feel, and we just sort of surrender our hearts and minds to them and parrot them. So now someone else's words and thoughts are coming out of our mouth and out of our mind and out of our heart. We're their NPC. But because we go from one thing to another, it's like, I don't know. It's some of it's, and maybe to me, it's so wild because I see or saw some people on the internet supposed to be whatever, but it's like the NPCs that I come in my day to day life have more empathy, integrity, authenticity, and all kinds of stuff than the I'm seeing online. And it's like, again, to me, that was crazy because there was so many people that would be like, yeah, my social media is this, and the people I come across in my day to day are that. While at the same time, my social media was people like talking about like shadow work and like, facing their trauma and getting into healing and making all these like life changes to be more in alignment with themselves. So right, more authenticity. They were talking about things that were happening in the world, like actually being more empathetic. They got more empathy than the empaths on YouTube who call the hurt, the pain, the suffering of other people as illusions. It's all an illusion. It's a trick of the matrix. And 4, 5, 6 years later, look at the world now. Because apparently all the non NPCs with all the power couldn't be bothered to. But they're not NPCs. It's like, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe I shouldn't apologize, but I truly didn't necessarily mean to go off the rails there. We did just have a Sagittarius full moon, and my North Node is in Sagittarius. See something, say something. What they say it, sort it. And we can't sort nothing because everybody pretending like what they see ain't real. And they ain't saying nothing. And then we're all surprised. It's like, where's the disconnect? Hello? Right? If you have your food out, right? You got fresh fruits and vegetables because you're one of those fresh veggies girls, one of those fresh veg girlies, and like you just leave the fruits and vegetables out, they start to like mold, and then you're starting to see flies on it. The flies are copulating on your fruits and vegetables. Now there's maggots, and then it's like if you eat them up, of course you're going to get sick because it's fresh. It doesn't last forever, right? And I don't know if that metaphor is necessarily translating, but it's like, I don't know. It's it's fine. We don't have to get further into it. But then you get that little badger pass. Again, let's ground it back in this. The badger pass shows up like, hey, like we're love and light girlies, right? Like let's give a little love and light to these folks over there. And then they're called divisive and agents of division and all this other stuff by pointing out the truth. They're demonized. And then, of course, things get worse. Nothing happens. It's like there's so much agency in calling for things, but absolutely none in like dealing with things as they come to our awareness. It's like, hey, like you manifested more abundance. Well, there's the job for you to go and work. Or here's an opportunity for you to pursue. Here's something for you to do that is of service that will provide for you. if you can receive and if you show up. You ask for peace. Well, here's all the things that need to be resolved so that peace can be a real thing. You ask to end world hunger. You ask for that level of comfort, but then when it comes to like feeding people, you don't think that should happen. And it's like, well, like, what do y'all want? Really? Anyway, let's turn that over, right? Like when you're tilling the earth, sometimes you got to turn it over, you got to aerate the soil. So, when you put some seeds in there, it'll actually grow. Okay, I'm moving on. Next card is Poisoner's Apprentice. Remember the snake and the wishing well? Somebody poisoned the water hole. Girl, that poison run deep. It's an orc warlock and it has infusion. This is new. When this creature enters. Okay, yeah. When this creature enters, target creature and opponent controls gets -4/-4 until end of turn if you gained life this turn. Does this taste like hemlock to you? This is a question. Does this taste like hemlock to you? Like, wait, what? Yeah, basically, we already saw that. Already spoke to that energy. Okay. I guess I'll pull this one next because I was moving the cards over here and it revealed itself. On the alley shopkeep. This is a goblin warlock. So from an orc warlock to a goblin warlock. And this one has menace, which again, two creatures have to block it. It can't be blocked by one creature. And it also has infusion. This creature gets +2/+0 as long as you gain life this turn. This one's from my private stock. So we have this one's from my private stock, and does this taste like hemlock to you with the Poisoner's Apprentice? Is that the apprentice to this alley shopkeep? And this is an interesting addition because here's the shopkeep, and this is the shopkeeper's bane. Remember that Badger Pass that's been this exemplary thing? The thing that was supposed to inspire light and love and be like the answer to all the prayers or whatever, but that people treat it like a pest. And there's the shopkeeper, the peddler of poison. So, and like literally, like I was saying, if the environment is toxic, anything medicinal and of light and generosity and kindness and all of those good things, they're going to be toxic to a toxic environment. They're toxic to an infection. They're toxic to bacteria and viruses and disease. They're toxic to invasive species and stuff like that. But it's a medicine. It's medicinal. It helps the body get better, right? Next is choreographed sparks, which is an instant. This spell can't be copied. Ooh, it's one of one. It's number one. It's the only one. Don't even waste your time trying to copy it. Okay, that's enough, Beyonce. Unique. So choose one or both. And all of the things we've seen, you had to choose one. But with this spell that can't be like maybe usually you copy it so you can get both effects, but since it can't be copied, you get access to both. Choose one or both. You can either copy a target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Or you can copy a target creature spell you control, and the copy gains haste, and at the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice this token. See, I feel like this choreographed spark falls under well, this is a choreographed spark. And again, the flames in that choreographed spark remind me of the ones in that goblin glass right. But also the fire in this elemental mascot. If it'll focus. If it won't, then we'll just move on. It's fine. Focus. There you go. So apparently, that elemental messenger, like, there's lots of pests out there. And the like we saw pests last time. The pests that we saw in the first booster pack were like, the ones that kind of eat away at, the great stuff, and not this energy. This choreographed sparks, though, it feels like multiple badger pest energies. Shout out to Hufflepuff, you know, Justin Kelly, whatever. But we also, what was that? Maybe it was just because it's Strixhaven, and I was like, Hufflepuff. I don't know anything about anything, but Pottermore told me I was a Hufflepuff, and it resonated with me, even though I didn't know what that meant. It just did. Anyway, something is happening. Maybe there's a whole flock of elemental mascots that are going out. We did see in the energy yesterday. I don't remember what it was specifically, but it made me think of, maybe it wasn't yesterday. Maybe it was that other booster pack or another live recently. It came out before yesterday. Well, that's kind of a slightly different energy. There was the thing, because it reminded me of the energy that was going from like sacred pool to sacred pool. It was like there was something going through the collective heart of mankind that was like looking for something, trying to find ground fertile enough for a divine seed. And so this choreographed spark is kind of bringing that back to mind. Next is Raoul Zarek, the guest lecturer, which is a legendary planeswalker. So +1, surveil 2, -1, any number of target players each discard a card. I said -1, right? -2, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. -7, flip 5 coins. Target opponent skips their next X turns, where X is the number of coins that came up heads. And I guess it's got 3 as a base. Honestly, I don't really know how the planeswalkers work. I don't know if it's like a mana thing or whatever. It might be. Not this guest lecture. I feel like this is the point where I'm like shifty eyes, like where, because it's reading like a setup. Especially because we have the proctor's gaze, right? We have the proctor's gaze. We have this choreographed sparks between these different shopkeepers' bangs, where the shopkeeper is this poison dealer. Someone keeps neutralizing all my poisons. What's going on? The townspeople are still alive. Shouldn't they be dropping like flies because of the drinking water? Right? You remember to poison the water hole, right? It's like, yeah, but they're just drinking it. And then, the shopkeeper tells one of their lackeys, like, drink the water. And they're like, girl, you just said it's poison. But, they're a lackey, so they got to do it. And they take the sip and like, oh, wow, this is actually like really good. And I'm like, what? It's like somebody neutralized the poison. Oh my gosh. But do the townsfolk know? No. But that shopkeeper's bane, they do it because they don't do it for thanks, and they don't do it because people deserve it. They do it because people are loved by the divine and blah 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 whatever. Not to downplay, but again, it'd be the very same energies keeping things afloat. And then if you do get that shopkeeper's bane out of town, the shop goes to ruin, because that was the energy that was counteracting the poison. Then things get real bad, right? Have y'all ever known of a situation that was kind of toxic, maybe like a job or something like that? And you put up with it for as long as you could, and then something happens, you're no longer there. But then you hear about like how bad things really got after you left, and then it like fell apart and all this other stuff because as toxic as it was, maybe you were the girl that was counteracting all of that toxicity that can at least produce a modicum of productivity or whatever so it can function. But then they got rid of the one thing that was actually keeping it afloat. Type energy. This. Oh, the next card is Return the Favor. This is another multiple. These are the only cards I know of, to my recollection. I'm pretty sure these are the only cards, the only instance I have where you can choose multiple effects. You don't have to choose just one. And it's another fire one, because of course. Return the Favor, it has spree, and spree allows you to choose one or more additional costs. So for 1 mana, you can copy a target instant spell, sorcery, spell. Okay, so you can copy a target instant spell, sorcery spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. And you can choose a new target for the copy. And then for 1 mana, you can also change the target of a target spell or ability with a single target. And beyond fire, this is lightning. This guest lecture, it reads like a plant. It reads like a setup. And then you have Return the Favor here. It's almost like if the divine and the anti-divine, if God and the devil got together, and God was like, you know what? I don't know. It's not necessarily that Jovian energy. It's like the devil's allowed to come and do devil things, and there are people who are immune to the tricks of the devil. And so the divine God is like they're they're not going anywhere. They're not going to do anything. So if you want to go down and like grab your people and then I'll grab my people, sure. Right. Like this is a guest lecture. This isn't an energy that's permanent here. And it's a planeswalker. It just goes about, it's the only one that operates differently from every other card on the table. That's why it's reading like a setup. So with this rendered speechless, and again, it's giving me that 9 of Swords that we saw in the Diablo Tarot. But it's also an energy that like has come up before. Like, what about this is love or light or whatever? What about this is compassion? What about this is anything that we are taught is divine and of the divine? Like, we're like, you know what I mean? That's like me saying, I'm going to sell you some, I don't know, a carrot, and I give you a hot dog. Right? Like, I'll give you a hot dog and a package that says 100% beef. Right? Like, shouldn't you be like, hey, like, you told me you give me a carrot and you gave me beef franks. Like, can I get my carrot? I feel like that metaphor may have just like But it's like, again, it's one of those like, this is more like, where's the disconnect? The townsfolk, people are who they are. We is who we is. We be who we be, and we can make a lot of excuses at times. But the way these cards came out, this is us like given an opportunity to do something. Also, that's kind of sort of been the energy lately. Like when we saw judgment, in that I'm pretty sure it was Aries, the Ace of Souls, the Seven of Zones, and Judgment. When the divine is like, okay, I'm gonna see what you're gonna do, because a lot of times we like to be like, oh well, if this didn't happen and if that didn't happen and if situations and circumstances were different, and but I wouldn't have done this and I wouldn't have done that, and it's like we're given the opportunity, and it's like then they pull up the receipts, they pull up the tape, right? Like, and we're like, oh no, like I've never done this, and then they pull up the tape, they play the tape. So you're saying that's not you on this camera flashing your face and your ID saying this is me. You're saying that that's not you, because that's what you actually did. When given the opportunity, this is what you chose. This is no longer a nebulous, you're not being punished for your ancestors or for the community or anybody else. This is you on camera doing the thing. This isn't your great 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 granddad. This is you, girl. Hello? Like, anyway. And then we get the most basic of basic lands. Ooh, wow. Okay. The forest. And it's just the basic forest, no shiny, no nothing. I guess there's this clearing in the forest where I don't know what's that. What's that going on in the sky? I mean, she ain't necessarily given that. I mean, even though it kind of came out, but I used the Diablo Tarot, so you know. But that energy kind of that did come up earlier, didn't it? Oh, literally here. That like I'm gonna get my people. I'm gonna get my people, and we're gonna bounce, and you can do whatever you're gonna do with your folk type energy. It's interesting that it's a clearing in the forest, because the clearing in the forest in another dungeons not dungeon in another Magic the Gathering card pack back when I had my place, so 2+ years ago, um was it was a forest clearing. So the place for which there are no guides, you can't guide or instruct someone in like decency. Like you can to a certain degree, but behind closed doors in real life, we all make our own choices and decisions. Even if whatever is instilled in us, we're going to do what we choose, right? And for free will to be a thing, consequence also has to be a thing, right? Like if no matter what you choose or do, the same thing happens, then that's not really free will. And I think sometimes as people who live our lives, maybe it can be difficult to conceptualize it in that way. But like if we're playing a game or watching a show or doing a choose your own adventure, then we more easily recognize if no matter what I choose or do, I get the same outcome, then I didn't really have a choice. Right. And because we want to have choices and because our will is free and we can do whatever, there has to be a consequence. There has to be reactions to actions and responses to stimuli. This is that clearing where, again, there's no guidance to it. You just kind of sort of get there. And it's not that we don't have like Jiminy Crickets and consciences, but at the same time, it's like it could be one of those where like, but I'm not hurting anybody. But like no one's around to see me, but everyone else is doing it. It's not illegal. It's the last card is a fractal. And look at this. Is this like a mole or something? She's giving honey badger. This fractal is like the honey badger fractal. So if I needed any more confirmation in real life, and that's what rendered speechless. Oh my gosh, if I had known, I wouldn't have treated you like this. That's why low key, it's fine. On the other side of this is a pest. It's the whenever this token attacks, you gain 1 life. It's this little, I don't even know what this is. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this pest is this pest. Is this, oops, is this energy? This just seems like a pest, right? It's just like not every, but like not every badger that's running around is this badger pest, right? It's almost like because it's incarnated, it has to incarnate sort of with a template. And so the creature itself isn't, it's just, it had to abide by an earth template to be incarnated. So not all pests, not all badgers, not all of anything is anything. But this side, see, I guess you could say like these are the things that keep us lost in the forest or out of the forest clearing. This is what we find in the forest clearing. And maybe this is in the forest clearing because all the other trees are like bent and broken and other stuff, right? But anyway, yeah, that's that energy. That was this booster pack. Cool, 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 awesome, great, fantastic, wonderful. And again, that's the only shopkeeper on the table. On the alley shopkeep. The one that's Goblin Warlock next to the poison dealer with apparently bespoke poisons and a private stock and all kinds of other stuff. And again, I feel like that's kind of one of the wild things about being a human on Earth. Sometimes we can rebel against or stand against something so hardcore that we don't even see or realize when we're doing the exact thing, right? It's the energy of people that swear that they won't become their parents or whoever, that don't see when they do. But again, like that's this whole thing. It's when we don't see what we do. So cool. All right. Well, I guess I'll still do the final card because I do that with these, right? Even though it doesn't necessarily feel necessary. That guest lecturer is suspicious. It's like a red herring. Like it's supposed to throw you off. It's supposed to be like, wait a minute. I know Jeffrey, and Jeffrey is lactose intolerant. So Jeffrey doesn't have a favorite ice cream. Jeffrey isn't asking for mac and cheese at Thanksgiving. Jeffrey isn't on the farm churning butter. Jeffrey's lactose intolerant and steers well clear of it. So you can put on Jeffrey's name tag, you can dress up like Jeffrey, you can act like Jeffrey all day long. But as soon as I saw you put that ice cream to your lips and smack them lips, and I knew you were an imposter. I knew you. See, girl, Jeffrey is like violently lactose intolerant. The fact that you ain't get up and just you weren't rocket propelled. Okay, we don't have to get disgusting. But yeah, it's like this red herring throwing off. But again, it's the thing that we as people, it's like when someone's like, can I be like honest real quick? Like, can I say something like kind of mean or messy? And you're like, oh my gosh, yes. Right. Sometimes all we need is an invitation. And that guest lecture is an invitation. But like the devious thing, I guess, about it is that like it's because of what it inspires or because of what it allows us to feel safe in. But at the same time, like we're still responsible for our own actions, choices, decisions, and behaviors. Right? I don't know. Not to be too whatever. And maybe just in general, right? In general, outside of the context of the past, if there's something that we're manifesting, asking for, moving towards, calling in, or if there's some way, it's like when we recognize something as other and or toxic or whatever, it's almost like, can we identify like why, right? If something reads as toxic to us because of how it challenges us to face ourselves and confront ourselves, because of maybe some kind of inferiority complex or whatever it inspires in us, that's an us thing. And maybe that's the opportunity. We can use that as a medicine to like get over that, step outside of that, move beyond that, right? Going back to the Three of Swords that we saw yesterday, it clears up that Three of Swords. It opens up that passageway, and now there's a new, shorter path that the things that we want can find us through, that we can also find them through at the same time. Because today is very both energy. You can choose multiple, right? It's like choose what you want. If you want multiple things, you can choose multiple things. You don't have to choose one thing, right? So there's that. If it's toxic because of like that, like, can I be messy? Can I be? And it's like it's like, yeah, because no judgment. This is a safe space, whatever. But if you're always being messy, and if mess is all you have to like contribute to a conversation or to the environment, then like how do we expect anything but mess? You know what I mean? It's not realistic, reasonable, or fair. Um, or to just in general, right? Because there's a, oh, it's fine. I don't know, because that North Node is going to be moving into Aquarius. Maybe. I wonder if Gemini knows. Gemini probably knows. There is a 85% chance that Gemini knows. Hey Google, when is the North Node moving into Aquarius? Hello. Hey Google, when is the North Node moving into Aquarius?
The North Node will move into Aquarius on July 26, 2026, or July 27th,
Yeah, that's
depending on the
right.
time zone and calculation method used, and will stay there until March 26, 2028.
Yeah, I remember that now because I was like, wait, that's like, I'm pretty sure July 25th is the day out of time, and then the 26th is when the new dream spell calendar begins. Because there's a difference between like the Mayan dream spell calendar and like the traditional calendar, and I don't know what it is. I know that is his name Argulis or whatever. Is that Jose? I'm pretty sure it starts with a J. And I'm pretty sure the 25th is the day out of time because it's like that gap between the old calendar and the new calendar. So, how interesting, we're going to be entering that Lion's Gate period of time with the North Node shifting from Pisces into Aquarius. Okay, all right. There's not that many, so I'll flip two. We'll flip this one. Oh, okay, and that one fell out. Bottom of the deck is the Goblin Glass Ride. This is the divine, like girl, like I specifically and intentionally created you for something amazing. And I know, like, you get down there, sometimes you forget, life is hard, but like, remember who you are and with what intention you were created. And if you don't know, like, with what intention you're created, just like check in with yourself, right? I guess I don't know, bro. Oh, in reverse, the Carol history buff with the pack a punch, and upright is the rehearsed debater. A Jin Bard and a vampire cleric. Yeah. I'm not gonna say it reads as impossible, but with that rehearsed debater, it's like it originally came out in the context of how that shopkeeper's bane makes sense of its place and experience in the world, how it like resolves itself and the experience that it's having mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, or mentally, physically, and emotionally, that has these like spiritual implications. But now it's almost like it's not one of the signs you're in a cult, but it's like when you already rehearse, it's like the thoughts are already instilled of like whenever whatever we believe is like questioned or whatever. And it's like we got this program that we can run to keep ourselves from being swayed one way or the other. And it's just how it works, right? And maybe it works off of a combination of like the things that we can't see about ourselves, the things that we won't admit, and it takes advantage of that self-enforced blindness, I guess. That's what makes it like insidious. I think I like the word insidious because it's like it's genius, but like diabolical. It hides behind vulnerability, right? It's like the main roots of the thing. It's hidden behind vulnerabilities that we have. And so, because we can't ever face the truth of this or the truth of that, or because the trauma of something else is so heavy, that like those are areas that we continue to like bypass or skirt around or that we'll never approach, then that thing that's rooted within us is secure. And we do all the defending and protecting for it. It doesn't even have to do anything. It just has to root itself in the right places. And when you have people who are world weary, people who are broken, people who are at their wits' end, people who have been at rock bottom for some time, people who are in desperate need of some kind of salvation or some kind of hope or anything, again, we latch onto it and we do all the work of protecting it for it. So that even if the divine were to show up, we still wouldn't recognize it, right? Like how many prophets and embodiments of the divine were like walking the earth and were treated like absolute garbage, you know what I mean? And it's like, whoa, like, you know who you pray to, right? Like, hello. It's like that one person who went looking for Buddha or whatever and was like, can you leave me alone? Like, you're so annoying. I'm out here waiting for the Buddha. And Buddha's like, maybe I can help you with something. And you're like, no, go away. Like, I told you, I'm waiting for the Buddha. And then Buddha's like, okay, if you told me to go away, I'm going to go away. If you don't want my help, you're not going to get my help. Just don't come crying to me when your homegirl or your best friend or your dude, your bro is like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe who I ran into at the store today. Buddha Jesus was on Market Street and Rose Garden. And you're like, what? How did I miss him? I was there. It's like, yeah, I don't know. And it's like, if you would have opened your eyes, you would have seen. If you would have, done anything. I feel like more than anything, maybe it's just like, even when resolution or the answer to a prayer or whatever comes in, are we even going to realize it, recognize it, and accept it? Hopefully so, because, but again, at the same time, it's like, if we can't, then what is the point of even listening or answering or responding, right? If we're going to make the choices that we're going to make regardless, I don't know. But, maybe you are that shopkeeper's bane and you've been going from place to place, and, your elemental mascot is on the way. And you're going to find out that there's a whole network or community of like sold individuals, question mark, with that choreographed sparks. And, y'all will get busy. Maybe you'll get down to the work that you're meant for. I don't know. Anyway, I hope y'all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting alignment to make all that you wish to experience reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey, what you find. I truly do. I know I kind of went like a bit whatever today, but honestly, like, it's also true. It's true. And I don't know. Again, it blows my mind because I've played video games and I'm familiar, right? In Warframe, there's like 8 different factions. In Dragon Age, there's different factions. There's always like different factions, and every faction has NPCs in it. You know what I mean? And again, it's just like, I feel like when we were asked, no problem, Sandra. Yeah, Skywaltress is equals Sandra. I'm like, I'm pretty sure. Yes, okay. I was like, sometimes my brain. No problem. But it's like, sometimes when it's almost like so blatant or obvious, and again, it's that rehearsed debate that keeps us maybe from seeing the obvious or from seeing the truth in things. And the rehearsed debate, it's not, and that, I guess maybe that's the thing about like second nature and pattern recognition and stuff like that. It's like an earworm. It's burrowed so deep into our minds through its repetition that it almost becomes like this automatic response. And that automatic response, um oh, okay. I was like, Sharon, wait. Speaking of Rob, I knew he was supposed to have a group. I've been meaning to like ask him about it, but it's fine. Um and it's like, that's kind of sort of low key NPC behavior, where it's like, it's the rehearsed debate. It's this automatic thing that comes up that gets us to reject certain things before we even really see it, listen to it, hear it out, or whatever. And again, it's something that's like, if we would be open enough, we would see it. And we'd be like, wait. But again, it's not easy, I guess, to question your to break that pattern recognition and to like remain critical, because maybe sometimes we do. I will I'll be like, hey girl, you know, what Everlong Mystic. What would we even be called? I don't know. We miss our mystic. um but yeah, it's like if we really, it's like we would recognize it. And if we could, yeah, that's what I was saying. Like it can be difficult sometimes to like keep our eyes open, maybe, you know? And again, for all of the shopkeepers' banes, for all the girlies that's been doing it, maybe it's finally like something's gonna happen and things are gonna move forward in a way where you're not just out here like ragamuffining it, or you don't feel like you're being a little ragamuffin. Is that like a pejorative? I don't think so. Is that derogatory? I mean, it's not great. Um, but yeah, it's like something may actually change now. And yeah, it's interesting because I feel like this is a complete aside, but every time like I'll I'll see like non Pisces readers, for example, because obviously I'm watching the Pisces readings. Duh, I'm not watching Libra because Libra's like the only thing I don't have in my chart. I could watch Pisces for my Mercury or my Sun. I could watch Sagittarius for my South Node, I guess. I mean my North Node. Sorry, my North Node. I can watch. I was gonna say Jupiter. Where's my Jupiter? Wait, my Jupiter's in Libra. I don't have Virgo. Never mind. But it's retrograde, so I'm a Pisces with a retrograde Jupiter. I'm pretty sure my Jupiter's retrograde. Mercury, Chiron, Pluto, and Jupiter. Maybe. Now I'm like, do I even know my own chart anymore? There was a point in time I definitely knew that, but it's been a minute since I looked at my chart. What was I saying? Yeah, it'll be people who be like, oh, like Pisces is so intuitive. Pisces is so intuitive. Oh, Pisces, it looks like you're in a time where like, you don't know what's going on, and I know it's unsettling for you. And I'm like, girl, Pisces is intuitive. We always operate off of our intuition. I'm used to going through life blind. Hello? I operate off of feeling. This ain't no different than any other time for me. I'm still like, even if it's like one of those, like, even if someone isn't there, you know them so intimately and they knew you so intimately, like, you know what they would say. Even if they're not there, even if you can't talk to them, the spirit of who they are and how they showed up for you lives within you. So even if you don't talk, or even if life gets busy, you already know what they would do and say. I'm like, and it's always no tea, no shade, but I feel like it's always the non Pisces readers. I'm gonna go talk to my number one fan and I'm gonna ask her because when I see it or when I hear it, I'm just like, how do you in one breath say that Pisces is super intuitive, but then you're like, oh, Pisces doesn't know what's going on, and I know it's hard for you, Pisces. I'm like, no, it may be hard for you, and maybe you're projecting, but the real Pisces know. Hello, where does the divine go? God don't go nowhere. You know what I mean? I don't know. But I guess maybe for some people, the divine does just like dip sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. Okay, y'all. I already did the spiel, right? I'll do it again. I truly, genuinely hope you have an amazing whenever you see this. If you're not, I hope it gets better. And I was like, I feel like there's a part of me that's like, what was that? Was that a New York quote? Where it's like, I forget what it was. And it was like, not you, you can choke. But in general, if you're good people, I hope that you're having a great time. If you're not good people, that's beyond my jurisdiction. I hope you have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. Emphasis on acting in alignment, emphasis on what you wish to experience to make it your reality. I hope you're doing the things that you need to do. And I think there's like there's certain kind of environments that it's not like environments that I can't be in anymore, but it's like I can complain and I can do this and I can do that and I can sit around and I can drag my feet. But at the end of the day, if I want something to change, then like I'm gonna have to do something. You know what I mean? So I'm not just going to sit around and complain about things not being whatever and then not do nothing. Hello? Anyway, um, and I hope that whatever you need along your path, journey, and what you find. I'm not interested in being any other way. I'm not saying that I don't still have growing to do. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm still growing. I know I'm still doing a whole bunch of things. But if you need someone who is a softer touch and a warm bosom for you to like snuggle up under and a teat to suckle on while everything is blowing up around you, and just like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. That's not me. And I have no interest in being that. I don't. But there's plenty of people out here on these digital streets. And if that's who you truly need, then the divine has the power and the capability to put on your path the folks and the things that will help you. If you are receptive and you are present enough to be aware, and if you are, I guess, courageous enough to face yourself while conversing with them, then yeah. So, and it's not that, I don't like, I don't know. I just feel like one of my love languages is kind of sort of like acts of service. I don't necessarily, I mean, obviously when I need help, it's great. I don't think I necessarily look at out for it a lot, but it's one of the things that like I like to help folks generally, but I don't have enough spare time and energy to just be wasting effort at the same time. You know what I mean? So anyway, let me go before I make this even more whatever. Um, we didn't get a page this time. It's interesting. We didn't get a page this time. The first time had Page Loose Leaf, the first booster pack. The second booster pack had the Diary of Dreams. Today we had Shopkeeper's Bane. We had that Badger Pest. And I guess when you're the Badger Pest, you don't need pages. Pages are for folks who are like finding their way to the forest clearing. That Badger Pest can't help but clear the area that it's in. It's just too big. And maybe that's like the annoyance of that Clifford the big red dog. It's that Disney's Hercules before he learned the limits of his strength. It's like, girl, you're destroying everything. And Hercules is like, I can't help it. I'm just too strong. I haven't grown into my strength yet. You know. Anyway, all right. I'll catch y'all later. I'm just rambling and ranting. Bye. Thanks for stopping by. Catch you next time. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. How long am I going to be here? Who knows? I feel like I've been saying that, and I don't know if I'm necessarily. I don't feel like I'm necessarily going anywhere, but I'm also not necessarily attached. Right. But I feel like, I feel like that's the thing too sometimes. It's like, how else do I see my folks or my peoples? You know what I mean? I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. I'll catch you later. Bye.